With rising inflation, bank failures, and massive layoffs across multiple sectors, the future of the economy remains uncertain. It's no wonder the central banks have been getting prepared by stockpiling gold. At ITM Trading, we have spent over 27 years building a team of seasoned researchers and analysts who can help you prepare for any financial crisis. Our experts are ready to provide you with proven strategies to safeguard your wealth and assets in the event of an economic downturn or currency reset, which is frankly inevitable. Don't wait until it's too late. Schedule your free gold and silver strategy call by clicking on the link in the description below.
Welcome back to the Black Swan Capitalist channel. My name is Vandel. Versan is here with us as usual. And today we have a special guest. Please welcome Dr. Jim Willie. Jim is a financial expert and the editor of the Hat Trick Letter, the website of the Golden Jackass. With his insightful forward-thinking analysis, Jim Willie provides valuable perspectives on today's events, the economy, and the financial markets. Dr. Jim Willie, thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure being on. It's the first time, so a little getting to know you, which is always fun. I'm a doctor, but not a medical doctor. I have a doctorate in probability and statistics. My thesis was about extreme value distributions in multiple dimensions. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. The most stimulating time of my life was the graduate school work at Carnegie Mellon and the marketing research work at Digital Equipment Corporation, which you guys are too young to know about. But in the 80s and 90s, it was IBM #1, Digital Equipment Corp DEC #2, and Hewlett Packard HP #3. And my company Digital died from bad decisions, but here we are. Moving on to bigger and better things. I tell you, I got discombobulated for a couple of years after losing that job. So, it might be just allow me to do a very brief bio.
Please.
I have experience in 3 areas of statistical practice. It's quality control first. Assembly line, improving the testing, make it more efficient. I did an engineering specification for that worth millions. Did I get a reward, a bonus? No. Did I get a promotion? No. So I quit the job and moved within the company for a marketing research position. And that was twice as long. I was at Digital for 13 years. I was a star on their softball team. Some of my best memories are from softball. The second job was marketing research, and that was the biggest learning experience for me because I expanded to learn about factor analysis. I did a little bit about logistic regression, which is basically regression models to predict a 0-1, like is he or is he not? Is she or is she not an Apple user? How do you do predictive modeling for something that is or not? We call it a binary variable. And my third job was at Staples, where I was involved with forecasting and sales analysis. I did a lot of things at Staples. I thought it was going to be boring. After a few months, I realized this is not going to be boring. This is a multi-billion-dollar business, and there are a lot of problems, and there are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of opportunities to milk something out of a big data set. We did a lot of really cool things at Staples, and while I was there in the late 90s, it went from 270 to 1,100 stores, so we did something right.
Wow.
So, quality control, marketing research, and sales analysis. When I was at Staples, I did all the coefficient analysis, the creation, estimation, and usage for seasonality. So you think I know a little bit about seasonal adjustments? Yeah. Does that enable me to detect fraud in the government statistics?
Oh,
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, remember something really important about government statistic. Every percent that's a lie on price inflation is a lie on economic growth. This is hard for you to accept, but just hear me. We're in a -10 to -15% recession
Makes sense.
in the United States right now.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little more on that, Jim? When you say -10 to 15%?
Well, we're in a recession where our economy is declining by 10 to 15% a year.
Okay.
Why do I think that? Well, we're claiming that price inflation is like 4%, 5%, when actually it's 15. And it's going to head toward 30.
Interesting.
Okay. If we lie, and let's just keep it simple. If we say the government says it's 5%, it's really 15%.
Yeah.
And then they say that we're in a +1% economic growth. Well, the lie is 10%, so we're -9.
Yeah, makes sense.
The lie in the price inflation is the same lie in economic growth.
Yeah.
Therefore, if we're
Interesting.
even, we're at -12 or -14% in a recession. And we're
Okay.
making up for it by printing money. You know, something very interesting happened, and I love this little quick anecdote. The bankers did severe damage, were given severe damage by the doctors. They locked down the economy. That made loan repayment very difficult. That made banks' insolvency much worse. But they had 2 back-to-back COVID stimulus plans in 2021 and early 2022 worth a total of $9 trillion, with the stipulation that the details would not be made public for 18 months. So in very late 2022 and early 2023, we learned about what I call the big bank welfare, called the COVID stimulus. Now, because it's been revealed they can't do it again, and now the banks are failing from damage done by the lockdown. The doctors did fatal damage to the bankers. Let that sink in. The doctors forced the lockdown. That caused fatal damage to the banks. And now the big banks cannot recover. There's no recovery to the economy. You can hear Trump talk all he wants about the economy strengthening. It's a pack of bullshit, because the lie in the price inflation is at least 10%. We got a little relaxation in the price inflation, but now we've got a global boycott / dumping of the Treasury bond, which means we have to monetize it. We have to print money to cover the federal U.S. government debts. And it's not really, pardon me, losing my voice. It's not really a shocking statement, but it's a little bit of a surprise for people to hear. I believe we're in a U.S. government default right now. Do you remember, Versan, that it was about 4 months ago, they did not make a new debt limit. They said, we're going to make it a sliding ceiling. Well, that's what you do when you're in a default.
I really think this all ties into what the BRICS nations is doing and their impact on the US dollar. I think there's a lot of complex issues here, but this might sound strange. The way I'm starting to see things as I really immerse myself in all of this information is that what's happening in the global economy appears to be a carefully orchestrated transnational agenda. And I think this initiative is really aimed at reshaping the global financial system and doing this gradually to maybe raise some awareness and wake people up a bit, but to avoid sudden panic. And I know that sounds a bit far-fetched, but what are your thoughts on what I just said? And I guess the BRICS nations.
Let me ask you a question. Who's the architect of, I call it a reset, restructuring. Who's the architect? The Cabal or the White Alliance?
Well, I don't have an answer to that, honestly. I don't know. If I could guess, and that's kind of what I was going to ask you next, is how
Okay.
I believe that this is.
You're going to throw it on me. That hard question again. Put back. Okay.
I mean, I think they're all in it together, and
Right.
it's all a show.
Well, all right. I have an unusual way of looking at things. For the last 20 years, who was in power? The Cabal or the White Alliance? It's the Cabal. So who's going to try to reshape the structure in order to retain power? The Cabal. What do they need to do that? They need their instrument. They need their weapon, the dollar. What is going away? The dollar.
The dollar.
The dollar / treasury bond. When I say dollar, think the backside is the treasury bond.
They're panicking.
So the BRICS are all about a new system.
Yes.
Non-dollar. De-dollarized to get to the non-dollar system. So the BRICS are all about a new power structure. So the BRICS, I believe, are a white alliance union.
Interesting. And I've heard
believe Trump. I believe Trump has a hand. I believe Trump has a hand.
You mean he's involved?
In the BRICS. In the BRICS.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe Trump, by means of the Space Force, worked out a deal where the Russians would clean out Ukraine. And let's keep it above board and just say, get rid of all the underground money laundering, etc. And let's just say that that's Russia's job, and they're doing a really good job. Let's leave it alone, though, okay? So you've got the old guard with the dollar, and you got the new guard with the de-dollarized and gold token with the BRICS, and they're clashing. So the restructure is to be attempted, key word, attempted by the Cabal. The new structure is going to be attempted by the Cabal, and it will fail. The new structure will also have an alternative with the BRICS, and it will succeed because it's not the dollar. There's a Austrian school of economics principle, I call it the corollaries, principles, pillars, that a failed paper currency cannot have a new paper currency to replace it. It must be metal. You go from paper. In 1971, we went from metal to paper. Now we're going to go from paper to metal, and the Cabal cannot be in charge. It's almost like a von Mises additional corollary that's mine. The architects of the paper currency cannot be in the room for creating and designing the new system. So the Cabal cannot be architects for the BRICS new non-dollar gold system. And the BRICS have been infiltrated by the Cabal from China, the Chinese door. And that's what's so remarkable about the Johannesburg, aka Joburg, BRICS meeting last month. President Xi had his bodyguards arrested. President Xi had his keynote speech obstructed. It was given by his Commerce Secretary to a near half-empty audience. The BRICS told China, we're not interested in your agenda for banks. We're all about de-dollarize, and that is as far as you can go. So the BRICS are the new architects of the new system that cannot involve the Cabal. And here's where it gets weird, ugly, and dangerous. Western Europe, England, and the United States are going to be forced into a gold token system, kicking, screaming, and killing.
What do you mean by that part exactly?
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, that last part.
The United States
for the Western
is going to have
part.
the United States is going to see its ports continue to reject the Treasury bill. It's been over a year. The Treasury bill has been rejected for over a year. Not completely, but predominantly rejected at the Long Beach port. Okay, I'm going to say something that's just remarkable. I got a consult call several months ago and an update several weeks ago from a man who was logistics officer at Long Beach.
Okay.
Wow. And he told me that the Treasury bill was rejected a long time ago. And the union strike at Long Beach is phony. They were told to go home. And in order to go home with a good story, they said, why don't you go on strike? If you don't go on strike, we'll arrest your asses.
Are you
So
serious?
they went on strike. They went on strike because they were idle, because there wasn't enough work, because the Treasury bill was rejected. Now, get to your question, Vandell. If the Treasury bill is rejected, how's the United States economy going to function with so much imports being a major component to the structural element of the economy?
It's going to collapse the system.
It'll collapse the system until the United States accepts the gold token.
Unless, this is what I'm thinking. I agree with you on that, and I can see it turning out that way. But what about the central bank digital currencies? Do you think that's a control mechanism that they have up their sleeve for that moment?
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. How's it going so far?
Not good. People are rejecting it.
What happened
Certain
when
parts
in
of the world.
September,
Well,
a year ago, Vandell, the Swiss came out with their attempt at a central bank digital currency and said that they wanted it to be centralized and not transparent. How'd it go over?
It didn't work
Not
out.
at all. Not
Mhm.
at all. Why has the United States not launched its central bank digital currency? Because Wall Street doesn't like decentralization and because Wall Street does not like transparency.
They can't make money if there's transparency. They need it to be corrupt so they can exploit people and exploit the system as they've been doing for 100 years and taking away all our wealth.
There are only maybe a handful of countries that are adopting a CBDC. And the mainstream news might say that there are many. I'm saying that there are a handful.
Right.
And it's not going well. That's why I always say, how's it going so far? If we haven't seen the CBDC after 2 years of talk, do you think we ever will?
Nope.
No. If we haven't had acceptance by our allies of the US version of the CBDC, do you think we ever will?
No.
No. Why haven't the BRICS talked about CBDCs in the last 6 months?
They said it's not going to work.
Because they're pretty certain that it won't work and they'd rather just stick with de-dollarize and the ruble for that part of the world with, Eastern Europe and former Soviet republics, and with the Chinese yuan and the Pacific Rim and also the Persian Gulf, and then also OPEC nations, and then also the OPEC customer nations. That's de-dollarizing. I'm talking about Western Europe. They're de-dollarizing.
Interesting.
There's a there's a BlackRock equivalent in France called a mundi, and it's $3 trillion asset under management. And they announced in July that they're going to remove all their dollar investments. They're divesting the dollar. This is what's going to happen to the client states for OPEC and the Persian Gulf oil and gas sales. Okay. So back to the point, the BRICS are de-dollarizing. The Russians have their ruble. The Chinese have the yuan, which is going to be far more used, and I believe will be a caretaker currency for a period of time. And we got other countries that are climbing on, like Venezuela, Indonesia, and Nigeria. They're not Arab. And they're de-dollarizing. They're saying we'll go with the Chinese yuan. Now, since China does not want country after country to hold Chinese government bonds, China's going to push them after a brief period of time of using the yuan for energy sales. China's going to push them into the gold token. China's going to push all the Persian Gulf and all the OPEC nations into using the gold token, and those who resist will get an option of using XRP. XRP is going to be like an alternative gold solution. I believe the United States is going to go dragging, kicking, screaming, and killing. And they're not going to want the BRICS gold token, but they're going to accept the XRP. And they're going to tell the US citizens that it's not gold backed, and they will lie. That's how XRP is going to be used. European nations will use it as a compromise. The United States might use it as a compromise. And wherever it gets used, you guys, it's not going to go away. It's going to grow and not go backwards. That's how it goes to $100, $200, and maybe $500. Russia has already announced back in July, you're going to block SWIFT usage for trade settlement. Will go to XRP as an alternative. Gold is the ultimate threat. Gold is kryptonite to all U.S. banking, all British banking, all Swiss banking, kryptonite. And I think it's going to be used as a transitional compromise. How's that? Okay. They're using XRP, you guys, now in the Persian Gulf. I did a consult with a guy in Oman, and he said, Jim, I spend time in Oman, Saudi, and Bahrain. The smaller transaction bills like cell phone, electricity, and other things, utilities, cable, it'll say XRP on the bottom. It is the choice for many companies to use. It's not the client option, it's the company option. And my Omani client said to me, Jim, they're using it in commerce too, like with contractors. I said, you mean like, say, a cement contractor in a construction site? He said, yeah, like that, but not for tens of thousands. They're using it as a trial for like 1,000 and less.
Yeah, small amounts for now.
Small amount. That's a trial. Don't you think they're going to say, well, we got a $25 million oil shipment, and if you want, you can use XRP.
Well, I personally use it. I send my father occasionally some funds. He's based out of Saudi Arabia. He's in Riyadh at the moment. So we send him funds and we do it instantly with XRP.
I've been saying for a very long time, and I've always been an advocate of a digital gold standard. And Judy Shelton always talked about gold, going back to a gold standard to bring stability to the markets and fairness. So when we're talking about like XRP as an alternative, the research says it's going to be gold backed.
Yeah. And they're going to do it in an unusual manner. And I cannot claim to be an expert on this, but I think what's going to happen is that the volume will increase, and at the same time, they're going to lift the price. So you can have two different factors working together to expand the market cap volume, the capability of XRP. And then when you rest, relax, and turn your back, they lift the gold price. I think XRP is going to be a key component, a key factor, and a key device for lifting the gold price. We got 50 years of international global decline from a false foundation, a false currency, which the United States, British, and Swiss have been using as a printing press. Okay, I point back to the 2008 Ron Paul forced audit as a compromise to get the Dodd-Frank financial regulatory bill through. And in that audit of the Fed, they learned of $23 trillion given in very low interest rate loans to the owners of the Fed.
Right.
You think that'll ever be paid back? No.
And that was illegal.
What was the interest rate? Very low, we were told. Well, how does 0.1% sound where they can roll it over and never pay it back? That's what phony money does. Owners of the company and institution that creates money can give it to themselves. Okay, there's something onerous about the fake money situation, and that is banks can issue a loan like for a home mortgage, and it's not their money, and they have no right to say that if you don't pay back in 90 days your mortgage, we're going to take your property, because the bank did not use their money. They used fictional money.
Right. And it's
Therefore,
unconstitutional.
Yes, but look, Versan, they might have to give the title back to the person holding the mortgage. That could be the resolution for gigantic national fraud in the United States. And I'm mainly concerned with the United States. I know that in Germany and France and Italy and Spain and England, they probably do the same thing. Where did the bank get the money to do the home mortgage? Well, they applied to the central bank and they got it. Where did the central bank get it? They just made it up. So why does the bank have the right to claim or threaten to claim to take
Ownership.
the title?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like asking why pay taxes when they can just print more.
It's just pure fraud. Yeah. Pure fraud.
Yeah.
Correct.
I stay away from taxes, Versan. I'm talking about title and origination of mortgage.
Yes.
We're going to see a colossal chaos
In the United
because
States.
internationally, from dumping treasury bonds and buying gold and working toward the gold token system, all these countries no longer expect ever to be repaid for their treasury bonds.
Yep.
So, Jim,
They're expecting a default. Vandel, they're expecting a default. That's the key point.
oh yes, no, we're absolutely aware of that, and we know it's coming.
Okay. What are they going to do if you're holding, $20 billion worth of treasury bonds and you don't expect ever to be paid back? What are you going to do? You're going to get rid of them, and you're going to take a haircut. I believe
you're screwed.
I believe those who are dumping large volumes of treasury bonds are getting 70 cents on the dollar, and they buy gold. And they also, okay, this is a key point. When they sell treasury bonds, they're not getting dollars. They're doing an instantaneous swap to get Korean won, to get euros in France, to get real in Saudi. They're not taking dollars. They're not investing back in the United States. It's not coming back to the United States. It's going to go to gold. And it's also going to go shopping like, to buy commercial buildings across Europe or the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. And it's accelerating.
So this could be a scenario that leads to hyperinflation. What's the probability of that? If all these dollars...
Hyperinflation is a guarantee, but not from coming back to the United States. We're going to get hyperinflation because we cannot pay in a legitimate way for our debt.
Right.
We cannot get foreign investors for our treasury bonds. We're printing money to buy our treasury bonds. It's called monetizing, and it's also called unsterilized. That's a key point. The inflation with prices in the United States is going to come from shortages as a result of port obstruction. And it's also going to come from monetizing our own debt.
Makes sense.
It's unsterilized. They're just going to print money without draining.
Right. No doubt that the Federal Reserve is already in a predicament where they can't control the situation. So do you see them just continuously raising interest rates until this whole thing blows up?
Like, how long can they do this for before people say we had enough? And
things will break from a confidence standpoint because they know that we're monetizing the debt. What are they monetizing the debt for? Treasury bonds. Treasury bond is the global currency reserve. Can you think of anything more poisonous, venomous, and horrendous than monetizing the global currency reserve debt? that results in its dumping, rejection, and abandonment. So when the monetization becomes well-known, understood, and no debate, that's when the game ends. They're not going to take treasury bills for anything.
We're very close.
I think we are. That's why I said 3, 5, 6, 7 months. It could be 2. Okay, that's one arena. You asked a question. I said there are 2 sides. The other is the personal household, the wage earner. Well, they're going to get paid in dollars.
Really?
Yes.
And they might not be comfortable putting that in the bank. So what are they going to be comfortable with? They're not going to be in a position to say, hey, look, I want 3 gold coins for my monthly paycheck. That's going to be a little bit hard to do. So the people are going to be in a real quandary. They're going to be concerned about their savings, their 401k, their IRA. I got, golly, a third of my consult calls, and I've done 600 of them now. A third of the consult calls are about IRA and 401k. What do? I want to transfer it. What do I do? Is it safe? I'm in money market right now. Well, is it in a big bank? Yeah, well, get it the hell out.
It's not safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not safe.
Yes.
What are the little people going to do? They're going to redeem their CDs. They're going to cash out of their money markets. But if you got a deposit in a bank, then the bank can do with it as it wishes. If you say, I want to remove my deposit, I want to remove my CD, I want to remove my long-term instrument and put it in the money market, the bank loses control. The money market is instantly redeemable at the window. A deposit is not. A lot of money has gone from deposit to money market. And it's actually gone back to deposits a little bit to surprise the heck out of me. That means people don't understand this is real. This crisis is real. Wake up. But the money in money markets is going to go to gold and silver, predominantly gold.
I believe that too. I've been saying this for a long time, my brother and I, and yeah, people call us crazy.
Versan, I'm going to share with you a little item of my acquired wisdom. The more people tell you you're crazy, the more comfortable you should feel that you're correct. Because the majority of people are dumb as rocks.
We know that. And you're right about that.
We know a lot of people. I actually had my college roommate, my favorite college roommate, die. He acquiesced to the mandate, ignored my advice, said, Jim, you're not a doctor. I said, well, I actually am, but in mathematics. And that means that I'm a really good science student also. And he said, yeah, but you're not a doctor. I trust my doctor. Well, he's dead. There are a lot of dumb people.
Yeah,
there are a lot of dumb people out there. And I will say this. A third of them will never wake up. They're hopeless. They're gone. And, you know, I don't have an exact number. Could be a quarter, could be a third, but it's in there somewhere. They'll never wake up. And here's a good reason why they'll never will. They'd have to admit that everything they believed in the last 20 years was wrong.
What's wrong?
They'd have to admit that they did their own bodies considerable harm by certain decisions. And they'd have to admit that the people that they voted for were criminals and traitors.
So it comes down to ego.
It's ego, it's pride. But I actually believe, I'm going to tell you something going to be hard for you to maybe swallow, but I believe what's going on right now, the denial is as powerful as alcoholic denial. It's almost like political and health and financial denial. If you look at the 3 main pillars of a fascist system, it's the political side, the banker side, and the medical side. Okay, so there's a lot of denial, and you're not going to wake anybody up. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're going to be able to wake up a lot of people, but maybe only half of them. A third have woken up. And of the ones remaining, maybe only half have the potential. if we get a establishment of the republic again, if we eliminate the threat to liberty, let's keep it general, then we're likely to see the medical sector not just reformed, but rebuilt.
I know what you mean.
And if that happens, we're probably going to get med beds to the rescue. And I believe that med beds might be able to do genetic restoration, where they did the gene editing. You know, they didn't say what the gene editing was, but it was to rip out your immune system. So we're going to be learning a lot about medicine, about health. And I've been trying to get information, and it's hard, but I believe there are 3 primary functions of med beds. One is organ and reconstruction. One is mental, psychological repair, like from trauma, or an abusive wipe out a memory. Like you've been a slave for 5 years. Now you're going to wipe out that memory, but they can use that for good, like wipe out the memory of a kid that's been harmed badly for a number of years.
Yeah.
And the third function that I heard about that I have trouble believing, and it's age regression. I have trouble with that one, but we'll see. I have an open mind. One thing that separates me from a lot of other analysts is that I don't start with a conclusion. I start with a question. Those who think you should never question science, those are your morons.
Yes. We're with you on that, Jim. So you know how we were talking about the dollar being dumped, de-dollarization taking place, and then we got BRICS working on this new reserve or new currency that's supposed to be backed by gold. XRP is an option. My question is, before shit hits the fan, which is inevitable based on the direction the US is going in now, how do you think that's going to manifest?
If you were to ask me when is shit going to hit the fan in the U.S. economy, I would say about 4 or 5 years ago. We're getting an acceleration of the shit hitting the fan. When you went to economic lockdown in 2020, 2021, that is the ultimate in shit hitting the fan. Yep. That's preventing people from making a living.
That's right.
And they're going to do it again. Did you hear about that?
They're going to try.
They're going to
try. And it's going to be interesting to see who's the 1/3 of the population. That's why I think the White Alliance is going to come out. I don't want to get caught in the most dangerous of topics, which is a rollout of another virus that could be a derivative of Ebola. I don't want to talk about that. I really don't.
But I want to ask you about XRP being introduced and gaining more popularity. Can you reiterate, how do you think that's going to happen here in the US, XRP?
I think that the US economy is going to get to a very dangerous logjam. Import supply is going to be interrupted, and foreign vendors are going to say, look, we want gold token. You got to play the game. Mm-hmm. And the United States will say, over our dead body. And they say, well, if that's what it requires, the dead body could be your political career, but it could also be the dead body of the US economy. And there's going to be a struggle for how can the US companies pay for foreign supply.
Yes.
And the US are going to say, we don't want to use the BRICS token. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have some states like Texas saying, we will use the BRICS gold token. So you get a division of the states, and then you're going to get a lot of pressure on the political leadership in the federal government, which will shrink gradually. And then they're going to suggest a compromise of XRP. There'll be enough ignorance about XRP that they can use it.
There already is.
Do you think there could be a banking freeze? You know, Jim Rickards talks about this in his book that he put out called The Road to Ruin. And he talks about, the G20 leaders, including Barack Obama in 2009 after the housing crisis. They came together and they formed the Financial Stability Board. And that the aim of that is to ensure global financial stability. And they
Now,
have
the goal of that is to ensure continued banker power.
the
where
real
they can-
goal, of course, yes. But that's what they say.
Stability according to what?
According
Stability
to power for them.
Well, I know, but stability is a loaded word. Stability of the system or stability of the power of individual political figures and banker figures.
There you go.
What if the IMF and the World Bank and Davos all vanish? How does that affect stability? Well, they are vanishing, and it's opening the door to new structural systems like the BRICS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I honestly, I struggle to get more and more information about XRP. I lapped up what we could find regarding the SEC decision. They ruled that it's not a currency, but Ripple came back out and said it's not a token either. You know what? I think XRP is going to flourish because nobody knows how to classify it.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a unique asset. Definitely.
It's unique, and therefore they can use it without saying we've adopted a different currency. If the gold token for BRICS is going to be a gold utility token, then XRP is going to be very similar.
Yeah.
Well, one of their goals, it's even listed on their website, is to be a world reserve currency. A world reserve currency. That's one of the goals, supposedly. So,
well, I believe that the BRICS are going to try really hard to have multiple alternatives to the dollar. And I don't think it's going to be that hard. I think Russia will have a ruble for their corner of the world. China will have the yuan for the Pacific Rim and the Persian Gulf. And that's going to expand, at least temporarily, for all the OPEC customers, including Europe. United States is a bunch of liars, and they think they could be energy independent, but they're liars. They shut down the fracking. They shut down the, oh gosh, what's the other name? Not the fracking, the
Keystone?
the
Pipeline.
Bakken.
Oh.
It's not fracking. It's shoot, can't think of the name. It's an energy drilling system, but they've shut down the Bakken. They've reduced shale, and now we're claiming to be independent, but we're doing backdoor purchase from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think we're going to continue purchasing from the Persian Gulf, and they're going to shove the yuan and the gold token down the U.S. throat. If
Amen.
we continue to buy oil from major BRICS nations, we're going to have to use the BRICS gold token. And that's where I think XRP is going to come into play. The U.S. is going to say, we'll use XRP.
Interesting.
And they'll lie to the people and say it's not gold when it is.
Amazing.
I tell you, these are going to be very tumultuous times. Yeah, you asked me, Vandel, when is shit going to hit the fan?
Yeah.
I changed the question. When is the shit that has already hit the fan going to accelerate multiples? I think in the next 6 months, because the Treasury bond is being rejected. The Treasury bond does not have legitimate buyers, and that is the foundation for the dollar. We're going to see we saw the most rapid decline of the dollar in trade payment usage in recent months. I believe in the last year, it has gone under 50%. Okay, here's my forecast, guys. In the next year, we're going to see trade payment like 1/3 dollar, 1/3 yuan, and 1/3 the rest. And the rest will be gold token, XRP, and ruble. Remember the key point of the BRICS, de-dollarize.
Yeah. That's the number one agenda.
Number one agenda. It's not the gold token. It's not a
Yeah.
gold currency. In fact, I think that they're going to retreat on the gold currency, and they're going to adopt on a much broader basis the gold token. A currency can be attacked. Look what they did to the Turkish lira. Look what they did to the Syrian, I don't know what they call their currency. Look what they did to the Venezuelan bolivar. Look what they did to the Iranian rial. Currencies can be attacked.
Yes.
The gold token cannot.
Well, Jim, very interesting perspectives. I love the information. And Versan and I actually agree with you on pretty much everything you said. Thank you so much, brother. I think we're going to wrap it up now because we know we've been taking quite a bit of your time. I really love this discussion, and hopefully we could do this again in the very near future.
We could get into 8 or 10 different topics that were left untouched.
Yeah.
I like to focus initially on the dollar, the treasury bond, and gold, and what is happening right now, because this is a 1 in 50-year event. It is a discarding of the global reserve currency, and every time it happens, there's a world war. So we're working toward avoiding a world war, and I think we're going to avoid it, but we might get instead a partial global genocide. And it's a matter of severity right now.
Yeah, I have no doubt, and I'm in alignment with your thinking. My brother and I, we both agree with you on that particularly as well. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Jim, for joining us, and we'll be talking to you soon, okay?